Welcome to Crackling Rosie True Crime. I'm Crackling Rosie. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, giving the video a thumbs up. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you for being part of the Crackling Crime crew. Let's get started. Today we will be discussing the Camerlengo family murders. This is a closed case dating back to 1990. The crimes took place on Staten Island in New York City. On June 26, 1990, Anthony and Anne Camerlengo were brutally murdered by their son, Thomas Camerlengo. And as you can see on the screen, right in the center is a photo of Anthony and Anne Camerlengo, and to the left of that photo is Thomas, also known as Tommy by the neighborhood kids, being arrested here the following day. During my research on this case, I was able to dig up some archived newspaper articles which I'll be sharing with you. Let's start with a little bit of details on this horrific case. Thomas Camerlengo at the time was 27 years old. He had a history of mental illness. It is said from the research that he was institutionalized for a short amount of time and was scheduled to be institutionalized again prior to these murders. In the evening of June 26, 1990, he brutally murdered both parents, dismembered their bodies, and discarded their bodies throughout the area and some in the home. I'm going to share a New York Times article with you that was dated June 27, 1990. A Staten Island man with a history of mental illness was arraigned yesterday on murder charges after the decapitated, dismembered bodies of his mother and father were found in blood-spattered basement of the family home. Thomas Camerlengo, 27, pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder in connection with the deaths of Anthony and Anne Camerlengo, both 73. Mr. Camerlengo's court-appointed lawyer, Joseph O'Shea, said this. His client was remanded to Kings County Hospital, where he would undergo psychiatric evaluation to determine whether he is fit to stand trial. Mr. Camerlengo was arrested about 9 p.m. on Tuesday, which would have been the 26th, after a brief chase through the Graniteville neighborhood where he lived with his parents. The police said Mr. Camerlengo was arrested after he was confronted by a cousin Peter Camerlengo at the family home at 175 Willow Road East. Police officers who searched the house Tuesday night found the decapitated bodies. A police spokesman, Sergeant Nick Vreeland, said, "The heads were found yesterday morning," so that would have been the 27th, "in a storm sewer about 50 yards from the family house." Sergeant Freeland said that Mr. Camerlengo had been institutionalized recently, but that he did not know the details of the illness. So he murders his parents. He dismembers. He cuts off the head on the father. He cuts off the legs. The cousin Peter comes over. He's either looking for something or wanted to stop in for a check-in. And he notices his cousin, Thomas, covered in blood. He knows something obviously is wrong. He goes to enter through the garage, and at that time, Thomas shuts the garage door, but Peter makes it underneath. He struggled with him. Thomas, I believe, if I'm correct, ran out of the house, and cousin Peter notified the police right away. So this next article that I'm going to share with you is very interesting. Keep in mind, the crimes happened June 1990. For 9 years, because of the mental illness, Thomas was back and forth between being held in prison and in mental treatment before a trial could even happen. So let's look at this article from 1999. A Staten Island man who has spent the last 9 years between jail and psychiatric institutions was convicted yesterday of murder in connection with the decapitation and dismemberment of his parents. The man, Thomas Camerlengo, 36, was indicted for the crimes in 1990 just after his parents, Anthony and Anne Camerlengo, were killed. Their son was declared incompetent to stand trial until recently. Defense attorneys argued their client was legally insane at the time of the parents' deaths. The district attorney convinced jurors that Mr. Camerlengo was mentally ill but legally sane. Jurors found Mr. Camerlengo guilty of 2 counts of second-degree murder and a count of assault, and at this time sentencing was set for June 9th. Now, I will tell you, he was sentenced to 50 years, and I believe he is eligible for parole in 2045. The reason I chose to speak about this crime, I'm on sabbatical from the Chandler Halderson case, and my husband lived and was raised 1 block away from Thomas Camerlengo. He knew him. They didn't know each other well. He just recalls playing as young boys. There was a tree house up at the corner. Back at that time, there was still a lot of woods on Staten Island. The young boys of the block had a tree house, and occasionally he would come out and play. He didn't know much of him. When he did hear of the crimes later in life, he was blown away. So, of course, they were young. They wouldn't have been able to identify whether he had mental illness or not. But he did say that there was something strange. Whenever Tommy was out playing, his mother would scream for him out the window or out the door to come back in, and wouldn't really be open or didn't like so much him playing with the neighborhood kids. So, okay, we are going to sign off. Thank you so much for joining me today.